Broadcasting this evening on WCPET 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. There you go. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. This afternoon live, it is the Matt McNeil Show. And Cliff Schecter is kind enough to join us today. If you're not following the Blue Amp YouTube channel, you are wrong. It is fantastic content, daily content. My God, you worked all weekend, all holiday weekends long, didn't you, on putting out new content all the time on your YouTube page?
Basically, we just put out Matt McNeil content at this point. That's really seriously from what we did, the hour you and I did, we had at least 3 segments. I mean, I figure when I go on a great show like yours, or I go on my friend Bob Seska or others like that, I might as well grab the content and have that be the videos I do, because I talk about the same stuff, same crazy stuff I do if I just sit here and stare at a camera by myself and talk to myself like I'm just some guy wandering down the street predicting the apocalypse.
It's my own personal OnlyFans page. You can find it Blue Amp channel on YouTube. Cliff is there. It's YouTube /C Schecter. I'll link to all of that on the social medias a little bit later on. So yesterday, when the profile occurred, that was the Minnesota Republican congressional delegation, basically all endorsed Trump yesterday. They used very specific language, which is, this is clearly what the entire narrative is going to be for the election cycle. And that is, this is the term they used for Minnesota. Every county's a border county. They can't get anything to stick with the Hunter Biden thing. I mean, that's imploding in front of them as they speak. So this is, the border now is the 2024 issue that they're going to just push down everything. It's the only thing we're about to hear for the next 11 months, correct?
I mean, it looks like it. They refuse to do anything. Of course, Democrats tried to put together a package. We've been doing it for years. They rejected a package that 68 senators voted for. The Republican House rejected it in about 2014, 2015. It had everything from more enforcement to penalties for those who came into the country without papers, and also provided a path to citizenship. It did everything that everybody wanted. So, of course, Republicans didn't vote for it. Now, even one of them, Troy Nehls, is that his name?
Yeah.
One of the idiots, I think he's from Texas, was like, I'm not going to do anything to help Biden's approval rating. I mean, the problem with these people is they're so stupid that they say the stuff out loud you're not supposed to say. You're supposed to be like, that was a terrible bill. He just is like, I don't want to help Biden win. I want to bring back the guy with the 91 indictments, who's a judge is called a rapist, who has, numerous, has stole national security secrets and is being tried for that, who has been kicked off of 2 state ballots for being a seditionist. That's the guy. That's our guy. I mean, the Hunter Biden thing always has been a big joke. They've tried to essentially create enough muddiness that people wouldn't be able to see it. The difference, and people can see the difference, because whatever Hunter Biden did, let me talk to you about Roger Clinton and Neil Bush and Billy Carter. And I mean, this is, as I've said before, Meghan McCain definitely got the gig on The View based upon her deep insight about politics. It's ludicrous. And so did Hunter Biden benefit from his dad? Yes. Welcome to America. Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong. And the great part is they tried to push China. And now, of course, this House Democratic report came out today showing that Donald Trump made over $1 million from China. He had a Chinese bank account.
Yeah.
We know that Ivanka Trump got 41 different trademarks from China. We know that Trump had all of his products made in China, and they paid over $1 million to his various businesses. So if anybody's in bed with China, it's him, although they'd have to share a place in that bed. It's a very busy bed, kind of like the Moscow Hilton, if you will. You let MBS from Saudi Arabia in that bed. You got to let Vladimir Putin in that bed. You got to let Erdogan of Turkey in that bed. It is a bed. It's a bed you don't want to be bedridden in, because, oh my, it is a gross collection of dictatorial. Well, I'd use a word, but I can't, because you're on.
We're on it. Thank you.
Monitored by the government.
We love you,
I'll
FCC.
just say jerks.
And jackasses. We'll go with that.
Okay.
7.8, by the way, going back to the story you mentioned that just broke from the Times earlier today, $7.8 million Trump got definitively from foreign countries while president, $7.8 million. This is the exact same thing they've been desperately trying to to pin onto Biden. They can't find a damn thing that he's done wrong, but they have definitive proof that Trump got 7.8 billion. This is why I think they've got to go to the border issue because that's just the garbage now. The Hunter Biden is just it's looking like a bigger and bigger joke every day.
I mean, remember, according to James Matlock Comer, he found that Joe Biden had actually given a loan to his brother, which we all know is very illegal. Nobody gives loans to family members ever.
Hate them all.
I mean, the thing is, they're so sad, they're so pathetic, they're so dishonest, they're so treasonous, they're so gauche and disgusting, the whole lot of them, that if we had a functioning media and they'd be laughed out of office and people would sort of say, this is ludicrous, right? I mean, sorry, somebody texting me, thanks. That these guys are actually in positions of power. I mean, you out there watching or listening to this, don't ever get imposter syndrome again. Because if James Comer and Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like that can actually sit in seats and ask people real questions, I mean, they're not qualified to. I mean, they're not qualified to be sitting asking fourth graders questions, much less anybody about any legal matter. And I mean, I don't know. I could just go on. My contempt for them has no boundaries. They're just the worst of the worst human beings.
Well, and I'm going to pick up on something you just said, which is the failure of the media to do their job. And as a matter of fact, I mean, immediately, as opposed to really call these guys out and, not really challenge them, now all of a sudden they're reporting. It's like they're reading Republican talking points about the border. All of a sudden we have a brand new caravan that's heading for the border. They just... I get it. Their numbers got wiped out because of corporate consolidation, and they got bought out, and reporters got fired, and investigative units got shut down. But can you guys just do something more than print the freaking RNC talking points and act like you're doing the news? Can you please just do that?
Well, then if you're a reporter, have some dignity and leave.
Yeah.
Or stand up for what's right, like John Harwood did, which he got forced out of CNN because he refused to sit there and play the, hey, if Republicans say A and Democrats say B, it must be somewhere in the middle, as opposed to like the numerous Republicans who've either been under investigation, who've been indicted. We act like it's just Donald Trump, right? It's not Byron Donalds, who's a former criminal. It's not Jim Jordan, and being investigated for what happened at Ohio State with the rapes. It's not Jim Comer being accused by his ex-girlfriend of beating her when they were in college. We could go on and on. Marjorie Taylor Greene has numerous charges against her, including sedition, in which she almost got kicked off the ballot when she had to go to a court. I mean, Lauren Boebert just went running to another district because she can't win in a +6 Republican district. That's too difficult for her. I mean, again, that's what happens after you watch too much Karate Kid and play wax on, wax off at Beetlejuice. See, I can say that, can I? I mean, I don't know what to do because these people are so obviously out of their depth. They're so obviously jokers and clowns and criminals and misfits that any honest media that was trying to even slightly do its job would have to point out the vast difference between the two parties. Are there bad Democrats? Bob Menendez, some Democrats that do bad stuff? Absolutely. But the enormous difference between your average Democrat and your average Republican, one comes from a clown authoritarian party and the other ones are trying to govern. And the media, that again, none of this stuff could happen if the media did its job, which is, again, to let voters and the people of the country know what reality is, so then we can act upon that when we vote, when we go out and we, invest our money, when we do various things, so that we understand these things, as opposed to just pretending everybody's the same, because we don't want to take sides, as if pointing out the truth is taking sides.
Well, and they don't. It's kind of one of those things where it's gotten so bad with some of the media. And by the way, you do your point about you can leave and go. There are a lot of great alternative media outlets right now that are out there doing great news, not only on a national level, but on local levels too. Find them. They're out there and support them. Subscribe to them because Absolutely. They need your help. But, it's kind of one of those things where when you look at they'll themselves put out polls which will say, "Oh, Donald Trump is winning Generation Z by 20 points." I'm like, what freaking planet would you even be on for that to make any sense? You know that black voters are going to go for Trump by 40 points. They can't even get in the way of their own numbers that say, okay, that doesn't make any sense. That's not right. And yet they still run with it and try to push this narrative. It's not only that,
My favorite one is when they report something and one of their stupid polls, which they know is wrong, and they still report it because they did it and they want the clicks, and then they have to even admit in the article that the poll is probably wrong, which I think recently happened. I'm trying to remember if it was the Washington Post or the New York Times.
I think it was both, actually. I think it was both.
Probably both. I've reserved so much of my ire for the New York Times over the years because they set agendas in so many cities like mine, and I think probably yours, where smaller newspapers end up getting a lot of their kind of views and content of what's put out by the so-called paper of record, which it's nothing close anymore. But now with the Washington Post pushing Greg Sargent out, who was literally one of their best reporters who reported on the democracy beat, I've now canceled my subscription there too. I'm done with them also. So Los Angeles Times, New Republic, Atlantic, those are some of the ones I'll read. As you said, plenty of alternative media. I'll watch your show. I'll watch YouTube shows, Ring of Fire and Jesse Dollamore and Tony Michaels and Bob Seska's podcast. I go on Stephanie Miller. I'll watch her show. I'll watch people that are telling the truth. I'm done with the garbage and the lies and the stupid he said, she said. I don't need to be treated like I'm a second grader. Like, oh my God, it may hurt if you tell the actual truth of who is responsible for what's going on.
Well, Heartland Signal, Minnesota Reformer, Blue Stem Prairie. I'll throw some other ones out there. Just fantastic.
Heartland Signal's terrific. Yeah. I should have mentioned them. Absolutely
fantastic.
I can sit here and mention there are some great folks doing. ProPublica has been fantastic.
Exactly.
But I mean, I kind of feel like I think ProPublica is nonprofit, right? I kind of feel like that's the future of this. That we need to get nonprofit media set up that really actually is interested in covering the news and not just clicks and being stupid both siders, because it's killing our democracy.
Cliff Schecter joining us. So I want to get into this, and this will, after the break, we'll talk more about this as well. But okay, so here's what we're dealing with. You have you talked a little bit about the Aaron Rodgers thing, where this right group wants to go on out there, and they have put every villain from the left in their own mind on the Epstein list. And doesn't matter what gets released, they're always going to believe these are the people that are there. Perry, Iowa, shooting today. At least a third of the posts I saw on X, Twitter, whatever, a third of them were about it being a false flag operation. It wasn't real. It wasn't really going on. Aaron Rupar, by the way, and not speaking of great journalists that are out there doing a great job, he pointed out Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton made a post which was just ludicrous.
I saw it,
when Donald Trump was president, America was safe, strong, and prosperous. The economy was booming. Working class wages were growing. Our border was secure. And Rupar says, this is bonkers. The month Trump left office, 80,000 Americans died from COVID. The unemployment rate was over 6%. It is indisputable that the country is in a much better shape now. Yet, once again, Cotton knows he just has to put that out there.
Correct. And the media will pick it up and say, well, Tom Cotton says this, but Aaron Rupar says that. And so who knows what the truth is? It's not like we have objective numbers, stats, history, science, math, things that are actual sort of definitive things, right?
Yeah.
Did FDR declare war on Germany? Who knows? He might have. I mean, but we can't determine that. The Republicans say he didn't. Democrats say he did. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
Well, and the crazy part is that there are so many Republicans, it doesn't matter. I could bring up a pile of factual things that prove that they're wrong. They'll just ignore that and insist they're right. I mean, we have really this is the dangerous part of America right now, is that no matter what reality is, people can warp it to their own needs. And that is where it's getting scary.
It's dangerous in many ways. And so I should make sure, in case anybody takes that as slight disinformation, I should point out that FDR declared war on Japan, then Germany responded by declaring war on us, and then we declared. So we did declare war on Germany, but they declared war on us first. Just thought I'd be clear. But
you do. Actually, we got to take a break here in a second, but I'll let you come back and finish that point. But you are right, because as a progressive, if you do this stuff as a progressive, if you get anything wrong, you get jumped on. But the reality is,
they can take it out of context, right?
Exactly.
Because we did declare war on them, but it was after they did on us. So,
Our standard,
I'm lying.
we are in a very different standard mode than most of the conservatives in this country. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us once again. It's the Blue Amp channel on YouTube. We'll take a break and come on back, talk more about this issue as well as more on Trump as too. It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950 and WCPT 820.
I'm still completely fresh. Did I get you?
It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us once again. The Blue Amp YouTube channel is YouTube.com/C Schecter. I'll link to it all a little bit later on. You need to be following it. Subscribe. Great video content constantly
You
there.
even look in the right place sometimes there. So that's a really like a.
It's a salute to Michelle
I've
Bachmann.
done so much psychological damage to myself starting a YouTube channel and trying to get the sound right, the picture right. You forget to change one thing. So sorry, all of you who are watching, and I was looking off, gazing into the distance like Benito Mussolini.
Have you seen the
Donald Trump fan, I
you seen
think.
the counterpoint to your image here? I mean, it's a jar of marshmallow fluff here. Okay, so
No. But
So-
okay, go ahead.
Well, let's go back to what I was talking about. One of the things here, not only is the media failing us, that these guys can put out any talking point, but it is this never-ending feeding machine that they're shooting in Perry. Like I said, instantaneously, a third of the comments on Twitter, a third of them, it's a false flag operation to try to cover up the Epstein list. What are you guys talking about? It just, there is no level of delusion that these people will not sink to prevent themselves from having to realize that maybe, just maybe, this bizarro world they've created for themselves might not be perfect.
Look, I've talked about this before. I mean, this has happened in the past where we've needed to reset certain things. We need to realize when times change, right? Insider trading was just something you could do until the stock market crashed. And everybody's like, oh, that seems like a bad thing because stocks had only existed for so long. The ability for people to communicate over large distances had only existed for so long. And I'm just saying right now, our free speech rights, which are mostly meant for, most of us aren't on TV or whatever, for conversations, we should always have the right to say whatever we want to our friends and whatever, but they weren't made for the modern age of where you can use social media and share disinformation and get people killed. And I don't know how we're going to deal with this, but the truth of the matter is that when you get these First Amendment extremists, you can't do anything, you can't touch, even though we do. When we think things are too dangerous, child porn would be an example. That's not actual activity, it's images. But we've rightfully said it is too dangerous. We're not going to protect it with the First Amendment. We're going to ban it. We ban threatening the president's life. Terroristic threats, if you say to somebody, you're going to come over and do something to them right now, you can't. But in other countries, the United Kingdom, more generalized threats and disinformation and hate speech, prosecuted. Germany, you show a Nazi symbol, you'll go to prison for it. France, they banned pro-Hamas rallies. I'm just saying, I get that can fall into the wrong hands, but you can also First Amendment your republic to death. Mm-hmm. And right now, a lot of people who are not from here, who I talk to, people that are the equivalent of our politics in other countries are sort of shocked that we give disinformation equal protection to information, particularly now as it's airborne. It's not me standing on a corner with a cardboard box, or cardboard, or I'm sorry, a placard yelling, the end is coming, repent. It is somebody with 1 million followers telling you not to take a COVID vaccine that will end up getting a certain number of you killed, or that it's a false flag, the government's coming for your guns. So people end up, we've heard this numerous times, start shooting at the cops who come to their house because they think it's Obama or they think it's Biden coming in. We have allowed this to happen. I pointed out again and again that hate crime, that murderer, who's, I think, convicted to life, thankfully, in that African-American shopping market in Buffalo.
Yeah.
All sorts of Americans are like, yeah, that's a great idea. Crazy right-wing lunatics encourage this guy. Only one person that I know besides the guy went to prison, and that was a 18 or 19-year-old in the United Kingdom. Because there, to encourage somebody to say, yeah, you should go, commit an act of violence is considered to be a crime, and he's now serving 14 years in prison. But we allow you to do it here. And we're just going to have to grapple with this. Free speech cannot be absolute. And if free speech is the sort of thing, especially with our easy access to guns, that is getting people killed, that is getting people not to take shots they should take, if people don't know where trusted sources of information are coming from, and they're I mean, you can't. I'll just say this: we will fall as a democracy. You cannot have a democracy when the vast majority of your people are not getting truthful information or relying on bad information.
And when you get like the Surgeon General of the state of Florida saying vaccines can't be trusted, now you have someone whose job is the public safety doing something undeniably which is against public safety, for what appears to be troll clicks on their social media accounts, because that would be why he announced this on Twitter, is that it's not about health policy, it's about who likes me now.
Right. I mean, it's clicks, it's, you know, it's clout, it's can I monetize the size of my following?
Yeah.
Can I go join the right-wing gravy train and go speak at all of the mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging conventions like CPAC and, you know, garbage like that, where, you know, easy payouts by, you know, what's his name? Matt Schlapp, the guy who, well, like, I don't think we can talk about what he did here. Let's just say he likes to sexually harass men. Or at least he's been charged with it. How about that?
Allegations. Allegations, yes.
Right. He has allegedly liked to, but now likes to, but he's been charged by numerous folks now. Like, it's just, I mean, we're in this crazy place where people benefit financially from kowtowing to this crazy couple percent. Because remember, you don't need to win an election and get 50%. You get a couple million people that are willing to buy your piece of crap book or go to your stupid conference or do, you know, whatever. You make a ton of money. And that is the world we're now living in. And again, at some point, we're going to have to grapple with this. I mean, I'm sitting here right now on your show, and I know if I say the F word, you'll get in trouble. Clearly, the government can regulate some speech.
Frankfurter.
We've chosen to say you can share any disinformation. Apparently, my saying the F word is worse than somebody sitting here and actually saying, telling you not to get a COVID vaccine so that you may die.
Well, and it's going with something else you said. We have to understand how fringe these people are. You brought up Lauren Boebert. She can't win in a +6R district. She has to go to a +14R district, and she still isn't a shoo-in over there. But this is a fringe group, but the media's irresponsibility is they make them look mainstream.
Yes, they give them equal coverage to you or me or really anybody else who's sharing actual science or legitimate opinions like, you know, the Civil War happened because of slavery.
Heaven forbid we actually learn the history, yes.
Crazy notions like that. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to stop there because we're at the end of the show. But I want, once again, you want to hear more of this, Cliff Schecter is exceptional. The Blue Amp YouTube channel, go find it. I'll link to it later. See Schecter on YouTube.
Come to my channel. I'll look in the right direction, I promise.
You're fantastic, Cliff. Cliff Schecter, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Bye, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hour 2 up next.